Which one of the following statements, if true, could be seen as the best supporting the argument in the passage? Option 1 states, the production and distribution of renewable energy through small-scale local systems is not economically sustainable. Now that we've seen the first option, we have to go back and understand the question. It's a curveball question. The question asks which of the following statements or among the options, if false, could be seen as best supporting the argument of the passage. So, what we have to find is a statement or an option which is against the information given in the passage, as in it weakens the argument of the passage. So, in that case, if it were false, then that would strengthen the argument, support the argument of the passage. Anything which is supporting the argument of the passage or is strengthening the argument of the passage would not work as an answer, because in that case, if it were false, then it would rather weaken the argument of the passage. We see hence that one is uh, not a potential answer. The production and distribution of renewable energy through small scale local systems is not economically sustainable. This is absolutely true. We have two references, repeat references of this in the passage. The first one is here. Furthermore, although renewable energy can be produced and distributed through small scale local systems, such an approach might not generate the high returns on investment needed to attract capital. The second reference to this is here in the fourth paragraph. Renewable energy can be produced at the household or neighborhood level. However, such small scale localized production is unlikely to generate high returns for investors. So this is true according to the passage, which means this, if false, would rather weaken the argument of the passage. Hence, one is not a potential answer. We can eliminate option one. Option two states, renewable energy systems have little or no environmental impact. This is against the passage. We can see it here in the first, second, and third paragraphs, in fact, that environmental impact has been mentioned. When it starts with a question, it starts by questioning that whether there is environmental impact. So, but renewables need to be further scrutinized before being championed as forging a path towards a low carbon future. Both the direct and indirect impacts of renewable energy must be examined to ensure that a climate smart future does not intensify social and environmental harm. Immediately, it is stated that there is environmental harm, as renewable energy production requires land, water, and labor, among other inputs. It imposes costs on people and the environment. This idea is further explored in hydropower projects and such. We can see from the second paragraph, it is stated renewables are enmeshed in long standing resource extraction through their dependence on minerals and metals. Scholars document the negative consequences of mining, even for mining operations that commit to socially responsible practices. Many of the world's largest reservoirs of minerals like cobalt, copper, lithium, and rare earth minerals, the ones needed for renewable technologies, are found in fragile states and under communities of marginalized people in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Again, in the third paragraph, we see that devices developed to reduce our carbon footprint, such as lithium batteries for hybrid and electric cars or solar panels, become potentially dangerous electronic waste at the end of their productive life. The disposal of toxic waste has long perpetuated social injustice through the flows of waste to the global south and to marginalized communities in the global north. So we find that there is considerable environmental impact of renewable energy systems, which means option 2, which says these systems have little or no environmental impact, is incorrect. It is against the argument of the passage. It is weakening the argument of the passage, which means if it were false, then it would rather strengthen the argument of the passage. So we could generalize from all the references that we've seen make this false and say renewable energy systems have environmental impact, significant environmental impact. So 2 is a valid answer option. We can qualify 2. Option 3 states renewable energy systems are as expensive as non renewable energy systems. Now, the aspect of expense of renewable versus non renewable systems is outside the premise. There's no direct reference to it. We have financial ramifications mentioned in the passage, discussed in the passage, sure. Some in the first paragraph, largely in the fourth paragraph. But directly the expense of these two systems or expense of implementing these systems are not discussed. So we cannot accept 3 to make it false, whether it will strengthen or weaken the argument, whether it will support or not support or go against the argument in the passage. That cannot be said definitively. So we cannot commit anything to option 3. 3 can be eliminated. It's too vague to be an answer. 4 says renewable energy systems are not as profitable as non renewable energy systems. Yes, the same reference as option 1, we can see that these references also work for option 4. So when option 4 says renewable energy systems are not as profitable as non renewable energy systems, at least in the context of small scale localized production, we see that this is absolutely true as per the information given in the passage, which means that uh, this is also not a potential answer, because if we were to make this false, it will go against the information given in the passage. So 4 can be eliminated. Our answer we see is option 2. Which one of the following statements, if true, could be an accurate inference from the first paragraph of the passage? Option 1 states, the author has reservations about the consequences of non renewable energy systems. This is outside the premise. We can see that the author makes reference to renewable energy systems and their implications or consequences. We don't have the aspect of non renewable energy sources or energy systems. So we cannot accept this. One can be eliminated. Option 2 states the author's only reservations about the profitability of renewable energy systems. Incorrect. We have a key statement here. It says, but renewables need to be further scrutinized before being championed as forging a path toward a low carbon future. Both the direct and indirect impacts of renewable energy must be examined to ensure that a climate smart future does not intensify social and environmental harm. Yes, the profitability is mentioned. It is mentioned here in this line, the last statement. But that is not the only concern, the only reservation. There are others. So this also is incorrect. We can eliminate option 2. Option 3 states the author has reservations about the consequences of renewable energy systems. This is perfect. We just saw the references. The consequences are mentioned here, and then also the low profitability, at least in the small scale local systems level, can also be a consequence. Yes. So this is definitely true. We can qualify 3 as a valid answer. Option 4 states the author does not think renewable energy systems can be as efficient as non-renewable energy systems. Now, while we were talking about the impacts, the consequences, the profitability, efficiency was not discussed. Efficiency is outside the premise, and so we can also eliminate option 4. Thus, our answer is option 3. Which one of the following statements best captures the main argument of the last paragraph of the passage? Option 1 states, most forms of renewable energy are not profitable investments for institutional investors. This is a distortion. We can see here that it is only true in the case of small scale production. Renewable energy can be produced at the household or neighborhood level. However, such small scale localized production is unlikely to generate high returns for investors. So, this is not exactly correct. We can eliminate option 1. Option 2 states renewable energy systems are not democratic unless they are corporate controlled. This also is a distortion. We can see the aspect of democratic or democratized here in the third and the fourth line. What is mentioned is for some climate activists, the promise of renewables. Rests on their ability not only to reduce emissions but also to provide distributed, democratized access to energy. But Burke and Stephens caution that renewable energy systems offer a possibility but not a certainty for more democratic energy futures, and then so on. So, yet again, this is not true that they can only be democratic if they are corporate controlled. Quite the opposite. So, we can eliminate option 2. Option 3 states renewable energy produced at the household or neighborhood level is more efficient than mass produced forms of energy. Yet again, the aspect of efficiency is completely outside the premise. There's no such discussion, no such reference in the passage. We were talking about these being less profitable comparatively, the renewable energy being less profitable at the household or neighborhood levels, but more efficient cannot be said. So 3 is vague. We can eliminate option 3. Option 4 states the development of the renewable energy sector is a double edged sword. A very general statement, but this one can be inferred, this one can be qualified. We can see here, we've seen half the reference already. For some climate activists, the promise of renewables rests on their ability not only to reduce emissions, but also to provide distributed, democratized access to energy. Now, what does democratized access to energy mean? It means, as democratic means, for everyone. So, everyone will be able to access the production of energy by these means, but that is not necessarily true. The following statement then puts this assertion into doubt. But Burke and Stephens caution that renewable energy systems offer a possibility, but not a certainty for more democratic energy futures. Small scale distributed forms of energy are only highly profitable to institutional investors if control is consolidated somewhere in the financial chain. Renewable energy can be produced at the household or neighborhood level. However, such small scale localized production is unlikely to generate high returns for investors. For financial growth to be sustained and expanded by the renewable sector, production and trade in renewable energy technologies will need to be highly concentrated, and large asset management firms will likely drive those developments. So, while the expectation is that of more democratic energy futures or democratized energy access, there's only a possibility, not a certainty of this. And in all probability, as this last statement suggests, the large asset management firms or large companies, let's call them, simplify, are likely to drive the developments and the progress of the renewable sector. So it will not be democratic access for everyone. So it's a double edged sword. It might just have disadvantages. 4 is inferable, so we can qualify 4 as a valid answer. Our final answer is option 4. All of the following statements, if true, could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage, except option 1 states the possible negative impacts of renewable energy need to be studied before it can be offered as a financial investment opportunity. Now, this is a distortion. We have these two aspects, both of them in the passage: the possible negative impacts of renewable energy and its offering as financial investment opportunity. But these are not interconnected. Need to be studied before it can be is the assumption here. We have the aspect of negative impacts here in the first paragraph. It says, but renewables need to be further scrutinized before being championed as forging a path towards a toward a low carbon future. Both the direct and indirect impacts of renewable energy must be examined to ensure that a smart future does not intensify social and environmental harm. Then again, we have the aspect of financial investment opportunity here in the fourth paragraph. While renewable energy is a more recent addition to financial portfolios, investments in the sector must be considered in light of our understanding of capital accumulation. So, these two concepts are not directly related the way this option defines them to be. So, we can see that this is not something which supports the argument of the passage. So, we can mark 1 as a valid answer. Option 2 states marginalized people in Africa, Asia, and Latin America have often been the main sufferers of corporate mining extraction projects, corporate mineral extraction projects. This is also there. This is there in the passage. We can see this from the second paragraph. Although an emerging sector, renewables are enmeshed in long standing resource extraction through their dependence on minerals and metals. Scholars document the negative consequences of mining, even for mining operations that commit to socially responsible practices. Many of the world's largest reservoirs of minerals like cobalt, copper, lithium, and rare earth minerals, the ones needed for renewable technologies, are found in fragile states and under communities of marginalized peoples in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, since the demand for metals and minerals will increase substantially in a renewable powered future. This intensification could exacerbate the existing consequences of extractive activities. So it is the marginalized people, and in these countries, as they have been stated here, who have suffered because of corporate mineral extraction projects or mining projects. So this is something which is supported by the passage. We can eliminate option 2. Option 3 states the example of agricultural finance helps us to see how to concentrate corporate activity in the renewable energy sector. This is a reference from the fourth paragraph. As agricultural finance reveals, the concentration of control of corporate activity facilitates profit generation for some climate activists. So we can see that this particular example helps us see how to concentrate corporate activity in renewable energy sector. So we see the concentration of control of corporate activity for profit generation, and this is connected to renewable energy here in the first line of this paragraph. So yet again, this is something which is supported by the passage. 3 can be eliminated. Option 4 states, one reason for the perpetuation of social injustice lies in the problem of disposal of toxic waste. This is a direct reference. We can see it here. The disposal of toxic waste has long perpetuated social injustice through the flows of waste to the global south and to marginalized communities in the global north. So this also can be eliminated. Our answer here is option 1. Based on the passage, we can infer that the author would be most supportive of which one of the following practices. Option 1 states the study of the coexistence of marginalized people with their environments. This is irrelevant to the passage altogether because we have seen the aspect of the marginalized people mentioned in the second paragraph, but it's not their coexistence with their environment which is being talked about. The reference is to corporate practices of mineral extraction or mining activities. It is stated here renewables are enmeshed in long standing resource extraction through their dependence on minerals and metals. Scholars document that the negative consequences of mining, even for mining operations that commit to socially responsible practices. Many of the world's largest reservoirs of minerals, the ones needed for renewable technologies, are found under communities of marginalized people in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So it is these people who have suffered because of the mining operations. Their coexistence with their environment is of no concern to us. It is outside the premise of the passage. So one can be eliminated. Option 2 states more stringent global policies and regulations to ensure a more just system of toxic waste disposal. This is perfect. We just saw the reference to metals and minerals. The reference to toxic waste disposal is also given here. It is also connected to the marginalized communities. It is in the third paragraph where we see devices developed to reduce our carbon footprint, such as lithium batteries for hybrid and electric cars or solar panels, become potentially dangerous electronic waste at the end of their productive life. The disposal of toxic waste has long perpetuated social injustice through the flows of waste to the global south and to marginalized communities in the global north. So, a more just system of waste disposal, toxic waste disposal, where these marginalized communities, the global south, and the communities, marginalized communities in the global north, these are not hurt by toxic waste disposal. The waste disposal could be um, reasonably and done in a proper way. So two is a valid answer. We can qualify two. Option three states encouragement for the development of more environment friendly carbon based fuels. This is something which has also not been discussed in the passage. We hear about the author's views on renewable energy, but non renewable energy systems or the development of environment friendly carbon based fuels which would not be damaging to the environment, that has not been given. So again, we cannot comment on this. We cannot qualify this as supportive the of the author's argument, or whether or we couldn't infer whether the author would support this or not, because this view is just not known to us. So three can be eliminated. Option 4 states the localized small scale development of renewable energy systems. This is almost directly incorrect, because the localized small scale production or development of renewable energy systems will not generate high returns for investors. There are two references to this in the passage. So, this is something that the author has absolutely no reason to endorse or to be supportive of. So, 4 can be eliminated. Our answer is option 2.